Prius, Ghost of 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 Prius, oh, 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 Ghost of Prius, come on, hunt me, Ghost of Prius. There's a region of the galaxy known as Shalari Space, through which, for many years, vessels have been afraid to cross. People report nightmares, illness, and seeing strange things as they pass through this part of space. And so a lot of people tend to avoid it. And there have been many ships in this area that have gone missing. It's kind of the Bermuda Triangle of Twilight Imperium 4. And for a long time, nobody really knew what this strange anomaly in space was. Until there was a Mentak ship. Because people often had to sail around this area of space just to be safe because they were afraid of it, anybody who would sail through it in order to trade or smuggle would make a lot better time. So those who were brave enough to do it, it would pay off. So there was a Mentak vessel who did seem to travel back and forth through Shalari Space, and on one of their voyages they encountered a strange race of beings that were described by a historian named Miriam Barkan as ethereal Lux-synaptic... Oh, it's hard to say. Described them as ethereal Lux-synaptic souls, which as far as I can glean means people made of fibers of light. And so if you take a look at the Ghosts of Prius, you can see that they're kind of streams of light coming out of them. That's because they don't have a physical body. They come from some sort of, I don't know if it's another dimension, but another realm or another... They're kind of a different type of matter than most of the other races of the galaxy. And so they have to wear these metal suits to kind of give themselves a form and to make the other great races more comfortable to interact with them. They have these interesting runes carved into their helmets and on their ships, and they're very mysterious, even now that they've revealed themselves for mysterious reasons. Nobody really knows much about the Ghosts of Prius, as they are called. The Shalari region, the anomaly there, actually it turns out was a kind of a wormhole that leads to their home planet, their home system. So for a long, long time, they were just kind of a rumor, a ghost story, and then now, even though people know that they're there and who they are, still very little is known about them. Now, in terms of game mechanics, they're really interesting. They're wormhole travelers, so they're really good with playing through the wormholes on the board. And with the Prophecy of Kings expansion, they've become even wormholier than ever before. So let's take a look at what they have mechanically in the game. So starting technology, pretty necessary for them is the gravity drive. And there's an important reason for this, and that's because of their home system. So unlike all the other factions' home systems, their home system exists off the board. And so the system that goes on the board to connect them to it is the Shalari Space, or the Prius Gate. And it connects to their home system through a delta wormhole. So just to recap, if you haven't seen any of the videos on tokens and systems, there are 4 types of wormhole in the game: alpha, beta, delta, and gamma. And wormholes connect systems to make them adjacent to each other. So even if they're not adjacent on the board, 2 alpha wormhole systems are considered adjacent to each other. So you can move from one to the other, trade through them, whatever. There's only the only delta wormholes in the board belong to the Ghosts of Prius. And so their home system and the Prius Gate are delta wormholes. They also have a flagship we'll talk about that also has a delta wormhole. But the reason this makes their gravity drive so important is because the Prius system is, since it's off the board, they have to travel a little extra far to go to land on any planets in the first round. And so since carriers only have a default move of 1, but the gravity drives allow you to get a boost to your speed, but they do still have a starting weakness that we'll get to now if we look at their starting unit. So they start with 1 carrier, 2 destroyers, 2 fighters, 4 infantry, and 1 space dock. So it's a pretty good fighting fleet, and the 4 infantry is pretty good. But having only 1 carrier and no other ships that have capacity means that in the very first round they may have a difficult time spreading out. Now, spreading out for them won't be a problem in the later game, because once they get their wormholes going, they're going to be all over the place and go pretty much wherever they want. But for the first round, it does give them a little bit of a slow start, and maybe that is to compensate with how much they'll be moving around later. I don't know. But just something to be aware of. So the first faction ability is Quantum Entanglement. You treat all systems that contain either an alpha or beta wormhole as adjacent to each other. Game effects cannot prevent you from using this ability. So I mentioned this a little bit before. So alpha and betas are adjacent for the Ghosts of Creuss. But they also cannot be prevented from using this ability, which means they're always adjacent to each other. So the only time I can think of where this might be a problem with game rules is there's an agenda that can seal the wormholes if it passes. And if it did pass, they would be immune to it. So it actually would be really interesting if that law came up. They'd probably want to pass it because that would give them they would continue to have access to the alpha and beta wormholes, but nobody else would. Then they have a second ability called Slipstream. So during your tactical actions, apply +1 to the move value of each of your ships that starts its movement in your home system or in a system that contains either an alpha or beta wormhole. So a little extra boost to that, again, that carrier to get out, but you can get yourself just a little farther if you need to with the Slipstream. So, and this is for every ship, so that's all of your fleets that are on an alpha or beta or on your home system. Get a little boost getting out of there. Okay, Creuss Gate. When you create the game board, place the Creuss Gate tile 17 where your home system would normally be placed. The Creuss Gate system is not a home system. Then place your home system in your play area. So this is the disadvantage being that getting you out can be a little bit of a hassle, but again, with your Slipstream, it's kind of negated, and your gravity drive. But it also makes you farther out for people to come in. All right, so I'll just take a look at the system here. So again, your hexagon goes on the board, but that's just a gate. Your actual planet has these weird points on it. That means it cannot go on the board. It has a 4-2, so 4 production or 4 resource value. So it's a pretty good starting value. It's a pretty standard starting value for production. 2 influence. So I would say it's a mid-range starting system. Let's take a look what else they have. Most of their units are just standards. All the standard units, they don't have any special ones. Like the Argent Flight had their special destroyers. But they have a pretty interesting flagship called the Hill Kalish. This ship system contains a delta wormhole. During movement, this ship may move before or after your other ships. So basically what this does is this connects your flagship to your home system. So if you build a fleet in Creuss and you got your flagship out on the board, they can kind of just sail out to where the flagship is. And because you can do it before or after, you can move your flagship first and then send everybody else, like if you're going to get into a combat or something. So pretty handy there. Combat's 5, 1 die, kind of basic. Everything else, move 1, capacity 3. So it's otherwise an unremarkable ship, but that delta wormhole, traveling delta wormhole, pretty great. The only thing I'd watch for is if somebody else gets technology like light wave deflectors, they can also use your delta wormhole from your flagship. They could potentially fly right through your fleet to your home system. So you do have to kind of watch for that. Okay, let's take a look at their others. Faction technologies. I'm not really doing these in any logical order. Dimensional Splicer. At the start of a space combat in a system that contains a wormhole and 1 or more of your ships, you may produce 1 hit and assign it to one of your opponent's ships. I wouldn't say this is one of the more powerful faction abilities. The real advantage to it is you get to choose the target. So if you need a red to build up some prerequisites for maybe you want to get War Suns later, maybe you want to grab this. But I would worry more about the other one, the Wormhole Generator. At the start of the status phase, place or move a Creuss wormhole token into either a system that contains a planet you control or a non-home system that does not contain any other players' ships. So the Ghosts of Creuss start with 3 wormhole tokens, an alpha, a beta, and a gamma, and using this wormhole generator, they can actually place these on the board and move them around. So it's really, this is what I was saying before. Even though they have, just the 1 carrier at the beginning, which is going to maybe give them a little bit of a slow start in round 1, once they get their wormhole generator going and their flagship and everything, they're just going to be all over the place. Spreading out won't really be a problem. Okay, let's take a look at their mech. So this, again, comes with the Prophecy of Kings expansion. And it is the Icarus Drive. After any player activates a system, you may remove this unit from the game board to place or move a Crius wormhole token into this system. So this is just a way that you can use your wormhole tokens without having to have the wormhole generator. So your mechs, if somebody activates a system with a mech in it, you can swap out the mech for, well, you can, even if you activate it, you just have to have a mech to swap out for the token. Okay, so there you go. We got their agent, Emissary Tevra. So after a player activates a system that contains a non-delta wormhole, you may exhaust this card. If you do, that system is adjacent to all other systems that contain a wormhole during this tactical action. And so this is, again, like with all agents, you can use this yourself or give this ability to somebody else. And what it does, it kind of expands on the Ghost's quantum entanglement. So whereas alpha and beta wormholes are always adjacent, this basically makes all wormholes adjacent to each other. So, okay, so how about their commander? So the commander, again, everyone has a unique unlock for their commander. And the Ghost's unlock is have units in 3 systems that contain alpha or beta wormholes. Again, once you get your fleet built and you get your generator going, that should not be a problem to unlock fairly early. And then the ability is, after your ships move, for each ship that has a capacity value and move through 1 or more wormholes, you may place 1 fighter from your reinforcements with that ship if you have unused capacity in the active system. And again, as a commander, it's always active. So once you unlock it, just every time you go through a wormhole, any ship with capacity, you can just put a free fighter on it. So that's pretty great. If I were playing something like the Argent Flight, which has like destroyers that have capacity, or the Titans of Vol, those ones that have extra ships that have a lot of capacity, that might be a good one to get the Alliance card for. And their hero, and I think this might be my favorite hero in the game, the Singularity Reactor. As an action, swap the positions of any 2 systems that contain wormholes or your units, other than the Kriya system and the wormhole nexus. So basically, neither of the spiky systems can be swapped. Then purge this card. So that's just fantastic. So this includes Mechatol Rex and home systems. As long as you can get a ship in there, or there's a wormhole in it, you can just trade any 2 places on the board. So let's say you have Mechatol Rex and you got all these huge armies surrounding it, you're about to get murdered. You can just trade that out to something closer to your home system, or behind your larger fleets. You could swap somebody, if you get to ship into somebody else's home system, you could place it next to your home system or next to their enemy's home system. So that just seems like a lot of fun. I cannot wait to try this someday. I have had very bad luck with the Ghosts of Crius in the past, because I always wanted to play them really, really badly. I've tried them twice, and I had the same thing happened to me both times. So both times, there was a law that came up in the agenda phase where it was like wormhole research, and if you supported this law, then you would roll a die, and there's like a 30% chance all ships on wormholes would blow up. But then if you rolled higher, you could get lots of stuff. So everybody, and I didn't want to risk it, because all my fleets, if you're the Ghost, all your fleets are on wormholes most of the time. So I did not want this to pass, and I voted against it, but everybody else really wanted to try it. And of course, they're not risking as much as I am. And so this happened 2 games in a row. Both times the law came up. Both times it passed. And both times we rolled a really low number and all my fleets blew up. So unfortunately, because I really like the concept of the Ghosts, fate has just not been kind to us. So, but with this new setup here with their hero, I got to give that another try when I get the chance. So hope you enjoyed that today. So just once again, I'll just have everybody stand for the Ghosts of Crius anthem.